My sons are 18 and 20. They have never known a world without the internet. They've never known a world for the last 15 years without a mobile device. And what has happened is that we baby boomers are very unique because we are the only generation in the entire history of mankind, for the entire period of time that we will be on this planet, to have gone through this transitional period of time with computer technology. And you know what? When it first started, we were promised a lot. We were given promises, you know, in Reader's Digest magazine and Popular Mechanics, that we were having the arrival of this magical technology that would do all the work on our behalf. You know, there were articles appearing in Reader's Digest that said, you know, what is mankind going to do when they're only working 4 hours a week and they live this life of leisure? You know, so we started out with these mystical promises as to how wonderful it was going to be, and then it started getting pretty weird. And you know, I found it such a fascinating thing, I ended up writing a book about what we went through. One of the 37 books I wrote called Surviving the Information Age. And what I did was I went back and looked at what Reader's Digest was writing in 1960 and 1961 and 1964. What they were promising us in terms of the future potential of technology versus the reality of what was occurring. It was a fascinating project to work on. Because what I learned was we went through this whole series of stunningly bad predictions. Popular Mechanics in 1949 had an article that maybe one day in the future, computers might weigh less than 1.5 tons. Imagine that. You know, the head of the FCC in 1961 made the observation that there is no way that space satellites will be used to provide telephone, telegraph, television, radio. Didn't even mention data services, because they couldn't conceive that such a future could happen. I think there is a worldwide market for maybe 5 computers. This was the head of IBM in 1943. You know, I've traveled the length and breadth of this country, and I've talked with the smartest people. I have concluded that data processing is a fad that won't last longer than a year. This is the head of Prentice Hall Books in 1957. There is no reason why anyone would ever want a computer in their home. This is the head of Digital Equipment in 1977. And there's my little guys in the home office, you know, looking at the technology, you know, but think about it. You know, think about it. Think about the number of computers we've grown up with in our home. We went through stunningly bad predictions, ridiculous predictions that were so often wrong about computer technology. 640K ought to be enough for everybody. This is Bill Gates, for crying out loud. And so, you know, what began to happen was we baby boomers were given a promise as to how wonderful technology was going to be, and it was turning out to be something different altogether. And it didn't always go well. Some of us were a little freaked out. Some of us were a little intimidated. Some of us found the voyage to be a little bit rougher than we expected. Some of us were mystified. And you know, when I went and wrote this book, I started discovering these fascinating stories about the challenges that people had with computer technology. You know, what happened one day at Dell Computer, at their computer support desk, they got a call. And they record all their calls, and they send around quality summaries to management, and somehow this story leaked out. A fellow at Dell Computer one day got a call, and it was from a customer. This lady had called in, and she was reporting to Dell that her coffee cup holder was broken. And he said to her, "Ma'am, we're Dell Computers. We sell computers. I have no idea what you're calling about." And she said, "Well, you sold me this computer, and the coffee cup holder on it is broken, and I would like to have it repaired." It took him 10 minutes to figure out that what was happening was she was coming into the office in the morning. She would come up to her computer with a cup of coffee. She would press the button for the CD-ROM tray. The drawer would slide out. She'd take a cup of coffee and put it on top. The darn thing eventually snapped off. True story. You know, we went through challenges. We went through challenges with the technology. I dug out this fascinating story from the state of Oregon, where a fellow in the mid-70s wanted a custom license plate. And so he contacted the Department of Motor Vehicles. And apparently what you do is you fill out a form. You get 3 choices. He was a sailing enthusiast. So the first custom license plate he wanted it to read yachting. His second choice was sailing. And he kind of thought, you know, if I don't get choice number 1, I don't get choice number 2. Boating seems kind of lame. So if I can't get choice number 1 or 2, I just don't want a custom license plate. So on box number 3, he wrote in no plate. He sent in the form. A week later, he gets his custom license plate in the mail. He opens up the packaging. He's expecting, you know, excitement to see the license plate that he wants. What does the license plate read? No plate. Because what happens is computers do what you tell them to do. It went into the data processing department, they key punched it in. The COBOL program came along, choice number 1 isn't available, choice number 2 is not available, choice number 3 is available, give it to him and print that plate. The story didn't end there. You know, he stuck it on his car. He thought it'd be a good conversation piece, you know, go to a cocktail party, you know, tell the story. He's got this license plate called No Plate. A couple of days later, after he started driving around, he got a ticket in the mail. Having a vehicle not properly licensed, registered in the state of Oregon. The next day, he got 2. Within a week, he was receiving 7 or 10 a day. And he started calling the Department of Motor Vehicles to figure out what had happened. They finally figured out what would happen is they would have an officer in the field finding an abandoned vehicle and would write in on the summons, the ticket, the reason for infraction, no plate, went into the computer processing department, did the logic, boom, send the ticket to him. Is it no wonder we're freaked out by technology? We went through some pretty bizarre stuff. We had to use this stuff in the office. Our IT departments were automating processes, putting in place software, putting in place technology, putting in stuff like Windows, and all of a sudden, we started getting this. We'd be in the middle of a really big project, just about to hit the save button, you know, and we'd get the blue screen of death. We'd get these error messages. This is one I had one day. I was using Macromedia Dreamweaver. No error occurred. What do I do here? Do I press it okay or don't I? You know, it's freaking me out. You know, we went through stuff that it's just mind-boggling to comprehend. You know, and so people started having fun with error messages. Big error, you really screwed up this time. I know, what else is new? It's my first day. And you know, it just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. You know, our screens would just get overloaded with stuff. And so what has happened with us is we are a very unique generation. And you know what? Some of us think, you know, Robert Kingsley, who's one of the famous computer scientists, he said, you know, if the automobile had followed the same development path as early technology, you know, a car today would cost $100, get 1,000,000 miles to the gallon, would blow up once a year, killing everybody inside. You know, we just went through so much that I don't think any generation will ever go through again in terms of the introduction of technology into the workplace. And so here we are. We feel battered and bruised.